Yes, good morning. We had slight problems. I have a reputation that everything I touch breaks away straight from the start. Actually, I get paid for that. So I've proven that because yesterday I rehearsed this presentation very last time, and I was absolutely so sure there can go nothing wrong, except that 2 minutes before I finished, I got a blue screen, the first for over 10 years or something. And today in the morning, I got the next one, and I knew, oh dear. And when I connected to this device, I had no mouse cursor. So what we did was moving everything from my laptop, which is dying away, obviously, to Andy's laptop. This is Andy's laptop, and I'm sure something will go wrong. But before I actually start my presentation, I would like to draw to your attention to something slightly different. This is taken a photo from the Galando World Championship in table football in 2018 in Austria, St. Pölten, where 250 people competed for the World Championship title. And surprisingly, this team won. But I'm not telling you this because I was on the team. Of course, I enjoyed that very much, in particular because Britain have never before won a World Championship title, no matter what competition, female, male, seniors, open, juniors, we were the first ones. The really interesting bit is there's a second guy. And people in my age group might actually recognize him. The younger ones won't. It's Dave Zeman. When you look in Vector in the archive for Dave Zeman, you get a couple of articles he wrote back in the day. And the most important ones are at the bottom. He was member of the standardization committee. I think he once led it even. So you can quietly say he's an APLer. And that means that 50% of the team winning the World Championship title were APLers. And that's the reason why I showed this, right? Now, I think that not all of you, a significant percentage of you, have no idea what the Apple Tree project actually is. So the first thing to do is to spend some time on explaining that, but not more than a couple of minutes. It started in 2009 as a collection of classes. The idea was that the problems every programmer is likely to run into should be solved in a way that is well documented, comes with test cases, stuff like that, and make it available to others. And back in those days, the natural place to put it seemed to be the APL Wiki, so that's where it all went. Now, there are many tools available, I believe, on the internet, but the Apple Tree stands out in some respects. It comes with a clear license. It's open source, the MIT license, which is very relaxed, so you can literally do everything you want. It is used in real-life applications by several companies and quite a number of programmers. It is well documented. And now I spot the typo. Isn't that nice? And it comes with exhaustive test cases, which is not only important to make sure that the damn thing doesn't break, it also is a very good source for documentation, because test cases tell you what the software is supposed to do. A couple of examples. There's, for example, a class called handle error, which gives you error trapping on a very high level, meaning that when your application runs into a problem that you haven't been foreseen, you can catch the error, hand it over, or let it handle the error by trying to save an error workspace, creating an HTML page with all the information available, state indicator, workspace size available, file style, whatever. And if that doesn't work, you know that you can't save a workspace with threaded applications. Then it tries to kill all the threads and save the workspace still. And if that doesn't work because you are in a thread that is not zero, then it creates a component file and saves all the variables that it can see at that very moment. And that should give you enough to analyze the problem. There's a powerful and flexible test framework which can do pretty much everything you want. There is a Markdown to HTML converter, and if you have used my server for the last at least year, maybe two, I'm not sure, then you might have enjoyed to be able to create an HTML page by writing Markdown, and the converter in the background will be the class Markable, which belongs to the Apple Tree project. There are comparison utilities to compare functions, operators, scripts, or even workspaces. And of course, there's a class to read and write from the registry. It's far more powerful than what, for example, the Windows scripting host is offering. You can instantiate ini files. You can communicate between APL application and the Windows Service Manager. You can deal with files and directories. Of course, there are now those quad functions. We've learned from Richard that now 17 is offering copy and move as a system function as well. But the class Files and Dirs was offering this a long time ago for all platforms, not only Windows. And I should mention that everything that is in the Apple Tree Utils project that can be run on several platforms is actually doing this. Only a few classes are not offering this, and that is for technical reasons. There is no registry under Linux or Mac OS. And there are many others. In total, I believe it's 45 or something, although many of those are applications and not classes, and we come to this in a moment. Now, the status at the end of 2017, it was a collection of classes, workspaces, applications, and user commands. Or you can also say it was a total mess, because clearly that went beyond the original idea to offer just a collection of classes. At the same time, Git made an appearance and took the world by storm. So it was decided that we move everything from the APL wiki to Git. And at the same time, we took the opportunity to split the whole stuff. So now it looks different. First of all, we go to GitHub, and the APL wiki is not used anymore at all. And we split all the stuff on the Apple Tree project into the just library classes, the original idea, and it has its own homepage on GitHub. When you search for Apple Tree, you can easily find it. And there's now a second project called Application. Seems strange, but it has a big advantage. When you search for that, it's very unlikely to find something that is not related to what I'm talking about. And that comes with applications and user commands. And it has its own homepage as well. Now, what has happened since I talked about the Apple Tree project the last time, and that is, I believe, quite a number of years ago, there is one new class, event codes, which simply gives you symbolic names for all the trappable events and dialogue, meaning that you can improve the readability of a trap statement dramatically, because when you write something with just integers, not all of us know what 22 is, although many will. There are a couple of major changes. Foremost, Markable was extended dramatically. It supports leanpub extensions, and I will explain what that is and how it looks like when I demo the stuff at the end. And Fire, the find and replace application, which I demonstrated once many years ago, underwent a significant simplification. The GUI looks much, much cleaner these days. We removed everything that we used extremely rarely, but came with a lot of noise. And there are new applications as well, or rather one application. It's Media Markdown Editor. Now, you may wonder why somebody is stupid enough to write an editor on APL. And it has clearly cons. It is a very basic editor, although it does come with undo and redo and with a powerful search and replace facility, but that's pretty much it. And other editors offer much more in this respect, like Notepad or Atom or whatever. But it has pros as well. And most important pro is that it is the only editor that naturally supports all the features offered by the Markable class. Markable is at the moment, the most powerful converter to get Markdown into HTML5. So when you use any other editor, even if it pretends to be a Markdown editor, you won't see all the stuff converted correctly, while Medi will do this. And it comes with a nice feature I stole from an editor which was once popular but then faded away, using a tree view for navigating through very large Markdown documents by creating it automatically from the headers. And finally, it allows the injection of parameters and complex Markdown expressions via the context menu. And if I have time enough, I'm going to demonstrate this quickly. And there are two user commands. The first one is Code Browser, which takes a workspace or a namespace reference as input and creates a standalone HTML page which will display on every modern browser. The tool is designed to allow you to jump through the code via links. There are extensive links in the HTML. So it's a perfect tool, I dare to say, for code reviewing. And there is a GUI available, but just for the Windows platform right now. Maybe one day I'm going to change that. And there's another user command, Markdown to HTML. It doesn't do anything spectacular. It just takes a Markdown file name and creates an HTML file. In other words, it's doing pretty much that, what Markable is doing that. But being a user command means that you can execute it easily behind the scenes per program. It's not designed to be actually called by a user. It's more likely to be executed by, say, a make procedure when you want to make sure that the Markdown is really converted into the latest version. So, the most important jump, however, was Git. Do you really need Git? Ah, isn't that nice? As I said, something will break. And it breaks because the picture is not there, and I have no idea why. There is a nice flowchart saying, do you need Git? Yes, install Git. Do you need Git? No. Yes, you do. Install Git. So that's clarified, and we can carry on. Git has a couple of strong pros. It supports any workflow you can think of. And with that, I mean really any workflow. The most important ones probably are being that you think of a repository as something that is on a server somewhere in the cloud, and your developers are somewhere in the world, and they go to the server, take a copy, and they bring back stuff back to the central repository. But that's not how Git originally was invented. The original idea was to give a tool to the Linux kernel developers, and they work very differently. They don't have a central repository. They always carry their repository with them. So they are all completely independent from each other, and occasionally, when they have a connection to the internet, they want to synchronize. That is the other extreme. So you can do this with Git as well. And there are plenty of hybrids between that, and you can do all this with Git perfectly well. Another pro is the vast documentation, which is really good and goes into every detail you can think of, and it is extremely powerful. Now, there are, of course, some cons as well. It supports any workflow, and it comes with a vast documentation, which is ordered alphabetically and not by groups. So all the commands you don't need for your workflow, you don't know. You have to find out. In order to find out, you have to read it and to understand it. When you have tried that, you know what I'm talking about. And it is extremely powerful. And not everybody is enjoying this. And again, this is not going to work because that picture is, of course, not available either. There's a poor guy sitting in front of a telly and said, please, please, please. And then the next one, silence. And then the third one said, shit, it was me. And the guy executed the command git blame, meaning he found out that somebody had changed something in the past, and from then on there was a bug introduced, And git blame allows you to find out which programmer that was in order to be able to shoot him. So that is one of the things you can't hide anywhere when you use a tool like Git. And with Git, we decided to go for GitHub, and that's a completely different thing. Git is a piece of software written by Linus Torvalds, which is beautiful originally, and then he handed it over to some other guys, and now it's suffering from severe featureitis. It's getting bigger and bigger and more complex, and well, okay. But GitHub is a completely different thing. It's a web service which allows you to manipulate your repositories in all sorts of ways and gives you software that supports the development process very nicely. And actually, I love GitHub. It comes with so many nice things. To start with, it's a platform for saving and accessing releases. It comes with an issue tracker, and an issue can be anything. It can be a bug report, an idea, a feature request, whatever. And you can easily assign a symbol to it to make clear what it is. Actually, you can assign a programmer to look into it or fix a bug or whatever. You can have deadlines. It's really nice. You can create pull requests, which means you can contribute to a project without being attached to it in any way. You don't need rights or user IDs or anything. You just clone the damn thing, you fix a typo, and then you create a pull request. And that means that on GitHub, the people in charge for the project, they see there's a pull request, and they can look into it, compare with current master version with what you've done, and see, he fixed a typo, I accept that. Or they say, no, he's American, he don't know how to write English. We say no to this pull request, we throw it away, or we make improvements to the pull request, and then we get it into the master branch. Works all very well. Every single project can have a wiki, which can be used for documentation purposes. Very nice. It comes with project management. If you ever have used Trello, I like it very much. It's a very simplified version of Trello, but still good enough in more complex projects to be used successfully. And it offers you the opportunity to have homepages for both users and organizations, but also for projects. So it doesn't have necessarily to be a README file. And it allows you to tag and search. Tagging means that you give it certain words, and when somebody else is looking for it, then you can easily find all the stuff belonging to it. So for example, when you look for Apple-Cation, you get all the members or the projects that are belonging to this kind of project. And it's free, except if you want to have private projects. Any project is by default public. Everybody can see it, although they can't modify it. Right, that was what I wanted to tell you. And there is something I wanted to show you. I intended to load an Acre project. I can't do this because this is Andy's machine and my environment is not there. So in the meantime, while Richard was giving his talk, I opened the project on my laptop, created a workspace, saved the workspace, and loaded this workspace on Andy's machine. And here I have the development environment for MEDI, which allows me to do a number of... No, this is not what I need to do. I mentioned earlier the LeanPub extensions. The idea comes from LeanPub. That is a web service that allows you to write books by creating markdown files and creating whatever you like from that, PDFs or printed books. And they came up with a couple of extensions that you need if you want to write books rather than ordinary HTML pages. And for example, when you look at this, it emphasizes this line of code. Say you want to make sure that people understand this is the line that got introduced or changed. And you can do this by putting LeanPub start insert and LeanPub end insert around that piece of code you want to emphasize. So that was what I'm going to do here, and that is how it looks in the resulting HTML page. That is one of the LeanPub extensions, and one of the more important ones. The second, which is really important, is you need what is often called an aside when you write a book. Asides are very often used either for additional pieces of information which are more detailed than the average reader is interested in. So you somehow want to make sure that people understand that. Or you discuss a topic that is slightly off topic in that chapter. And you can, again, achieve that by putting an A greater than blank to the left side of whatever that is. And that will result, I have difficulties to scroll here. Why is it not scrolling? I broke your laptop, Andy, sorry. That results in something like that. However, a site can be way more complex. It can actually contain everything you can think of. This comes with a header, another header, a code block, a list. The bullet points make it a list, and ordinary paragraphs with inline markup like bold, italic, and code, and stuff like that. And that results Can I do it this way? No. That results in something like that. Now, how it actually looks, of course, is CSS, so you can do whatever you like, but it creates the proper HTML with classes assigned, so it's very easy to style it in other ways if you dislike that. And the last bits are the different ways to mark something up as a discussion, an information, an exercise, an error, a warning, or whatever. And the guys at LeanPub came up with the idea of doing this way. This is, for example, a warning, and you get then stuff like that. And again, these icons, of course, you can replace by CSS quite easily and make them look completely different. So that is now supported by the Markable class, and Medi, this editor, is able to display this properly. If you display this in any other Markdown editor, that won't work. I'm afraid I'm running out of time anyway, so any questions? Is this a good sign or a bad sign? I'm not sure. Nobody. Okay.
Not a question, a complaint.
A complaint.
Yes, I'm one of your Medi users. And I find it impossible to convince Medi not to generate HTML when I save the document. There's sort of, you can uncheck a checkbox, but after a few minutes it comes back and says, don't you want to save the HTML again?
You use an old version, I'm afraid.
Ah.
I broke the code.
All right, thank you. It's very useful.
Let me restart it. In the settings, there's now an option saying, never save HTML, always save HTML, keep asking. I'm listening. Okay, thank you very much.